Hey, what's goody, Frye gang? Finally time for the in-depth side order trailer analysis. Now, I was watching other analysis videos and none of them really went too in-depth on anything and got into the smaller details. So naturally, I wanted to go in and look at everything and try to point out as many little details as I can and try to analyze what they mean. But for the sake of people who want to go in blind, I'm not really going to be talking about too much outside stuff unless it's absolutely necessary. Naturally, we did get a lot of information on the website and in tweets, and I will try not to talk about most of that. But if there is something that I do need to clarify that requires some of that outside information, I will be using that in this video. So just as a heads up for those who want to go in blind. But with that being said, let's get into this trailer analysis. Now, the very opening of the trailer all the way up until we see the title doesn't really have much of anything. It's just again showing off the opening scene of the game again that we've already seen plenty of times. But afterwards, after that first trailer showing or title showing, we do get our first piece of information to talk about. Although it might not mean anything, and just for clarity's sake, even though I said there wasn't anything in that last part, we did hear Pearl kind of talking near the end. Not sure what she said, but it did sound like Pearl's voice, which shouldn't be too surprising considering she will be helping us out here. But after the title drop and the narrator starts talking about side order, we hear a certain little jingle which sounds very familiar.
Welcome to Inkopolis Square. This once thriving district now lies abandoned and has been drained of color. After awakening in this world of order, an Octoling, Agent 8, along with Pearl, one half of the musical duo Off the Hook, who is now a drone, must ascend the Spire of Order together.
Now, for those of you who are tuned listeners, you would have realized that this is actually a remix to Acid Hues, a Off the Hook Splatfest theme, which makes sense that it would be here, as it's representing that Off the Hook will be playing a very big role here inside Order. Not only that, but we're in Inkopolis Square, which is where Off the Hook typically performs their Splatfest music.
It's been drained of color. After awakening in this world of order, an Octoling, Agent 8.
Now, in this scene where we see Agent 8 and Pearl running into the tower, if you look over here on the right, you see some lockers with numbers on them. Now, I'm not going to get into exactly what these are for, but just know that these lockers will be very helpful in our climb up the Spire of Order and will make it a lot easier later on in the game once you've invested enough time into it. Now, after we get that little tutorial fight right there, this is our first real shot of gameplay. Now, there's a lot to see here and explain here in this one screenshot alone. Now, as we can see up in the top left, we have 3 lives, and that's what we start with as we ascend up the Spire of Order. And once all 3 lives are done, then we have to completely start all the way from the beginning, from the bottom, with nothing left. We will see that later on, and there is a way to decrease or increase these lives later on as well. Now, if you look under that, there is something that says 3 chain. Now, this I will also explain later. It will make more sense once we actually see what this is, but this will make a lot more sense in a bit. Now, up here we see at the very top our first objective, and this is to destroy the portals. Now, this is very early on in the Spire of Order and is most likely on easy. Could be on normal, but it's probably easy mode considering we only have to destroy 2 portals at this point. Now, obviously, we have our sub and special up in the right, Crab Tank Sploder Can for Splatana Wiper, which is very funny, but however, we will be able to change our sub and special later on in the game to whatever we want. And it has been confirmed that we will also be getting multiple palettes, not just the Pearl palette. I'm not going to spoil whose palette this Stamper one is, but let's just say I'm very happy it belongs to that certain character. You might be able to figure out who it is from that. But just under that, we see this kind of rainbow CD symbol. I'm still not sure what exactly this could be. I've tried thinking, I've cross-referenced the trailer with other stuff. I'm still not sure what that symbol is. But just under that, we see Pearl with a sprinkler above her head and a gauge. Now, as we know, which we will also see later on, and it will be explained easier later on, Pearl can have her own different subs and specials and whatever else. And this is just her first one, which is basically a sprinkler, and that gauge filling up is basically how the special gauge is. Once it fills up, she can use it. And later on, we'll see this is actually a very cool mechanic that works on its own, which I will also explain later. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I'm kind of just introducing all of this to you so you can keep it in the back of your mind for later. It'll make a lot more sense later. Now after that, we get even more gameplay with a different objective this time. Now we can see the chain is up to a max of 30. Here we see this thing in the middle right here. It looks a bit like a Sprinkler of Doom from Tricolor, and this is more, the objective is more of like tower control, as you can see at the top with the objective line there. However, this, in order to progress the tower, just for brevity's sake, I'm gonna just call it the tower. To push the tower, we have to constantly be shooting it and fill it with ink. If you look at the tube right here, it's about just over halfway full. And once it runs out of ink, which it sprays out through the sprinkler on top, it no longer moves. So we constantly have to keep it filled with ink in order to move it along the objective line all the way to the end, just like tower control. It's a very unique spin on tower control that we haven't seen before. And we can even see that here in the clip, as it shows that we just passed checkpoint 1, which is a thing for tower control. Now this frame right here doesn't show much, but what it does show is that we will be able to customize our Octolings in side order. So unlike Octo expansion, where we just chose between male and female, Agent 8 will be able to completely customize them from the skin color to the hair to the eyebrows and everything. So a lot more customization, which I know will make a lot of people happy. And this was later confirmed in a tweet on the official Splatoon Twitter account. Now that we're back in the elevator, we get to see a lot more color chips. Here, just like before, we get to choose between easy, normal, and hard difficulty for each of the floors. And the floors themselves, like the difficulties, have different names. For example, hard is also known as vigorous, which I will be showing off later in the trailer. But before we get into describing anything else, one thing I did notice is that the floor names all kind of look like file types, like rolling.floor, escape-artist floor. For like files, it'll typically use hyphens or underscores to indicate spaces, and then dot floor. So perhaps these are to indicate file types, which would make sense if the whole theory that side order is a whole digital recreation or digital world in some form. This could just be some very nice congruency with that. Now if we look, we see more color chips. Dodge roll attack, which basically gives our dodge rolls on dualies an attack. Think of like Grizzco dualies. It's similar to that, except for the damage that we actually deal with the dodge roll is more of like a Kraken jump than it is an explosion like the Grizzco dualies. So it doesn't cause an explosion whenever you roll and hitting enemies around it. You kind of have to roll into enemies for them to actually be hit and taking damage, just like a Kraken. And I'll explain the different colors and what they mean later on when we get to that. Now, under that, we see main ink coverage. All this does is just increase the ink coverage of our main weapon. Self-explanatory. It gives us more droplets whenever we fire, so a greater ink coverage. Now, this is one of the ones I was talking about earlier, the max lucky chain. Now, this affects the chain that we saw earlier in the trailer that I told you to remember, that we saw go up to a max of 30, which we can see right here, and we can increase it by 20 every time. So 30 to 50 to 70 to 90 to 110. And what this does is increases the lucky chain maximum. The longer the chain, the more likely enemies are to drop items. And these items will be from special cans to armor to ink refills that we will see. And this chain lasts for a limited amount of time. As we saw earlier, you can go up to a max of whatever the max is at that point, and it'll slowly go down. And once that bar depletes, you have to start over and build that chain all the way back up again. Now, as for the objectives of each of these floor, on easy, the rolling floor, we have a guide the 8-ball level. I know a lot of people are getting PTSD from Octo expansion, but yes, the 8-ball is back. Now, for the escape artist floor, this will be to chase around and defeat certain enemies that are deliberately trying to run away from you. And those looking gelatins right there. These dead fish enemies we've been seeing throughout the whole side order have been confirmed to be called gelatins. So that middle one for normal is to chase around this gelatin and defeat it, hence the name escape artist, as they're trying to escape from you. And then the whirling shell floor, this is the standard destroy all the portals objective. But one thing I found very interesting, and I don't want to speculate too much in this analysis video, but the rewards here, 30, 90, and 130 respectively, this currency is called Membucks. Now, this reminds me a lot of Mem Cakes from Octo expansion. Now, I don't want to get too much into speculation, but this is kind of corroborating my theory that maybe Commander Tartar is back, given what Kamabo was all about. And we find some more evidence later on that supports my Kamabo theory even more. Next, we get our first look at one of the objectives, being destroy the portal. Now, if you look around this room seems to be filled with a lot of childlike toys, with the fish down over here, the bowling pins, the building blocks, and a lot of people were led to believe that these could be things from Marina's childhood and memories, which would make sense if the theory that Marina did build the side order world is true. And that whole thing about the concert, her talking to Pearl about the side project, this very well could be that. So there's a high likelihood that Marina could have in fact built this whole side order world, and these are just things from her childhood. Maybe you could say her memories. So I mean, the whole Kamabo connection is making sense here. Now, after those three objectives we just saw, we do know there's also this Splat Zones objective where we have to keep the zone filled and capped for long enough before the enemies take over, just like regular Splat Zones. And then we saw the tower control mode. But this screenshot right here, this frame right here is very, very interesting, as we get a closer look at the logo that is on the Pearl palette. Now, if you had seen my previous video, one of my theory videos about side order, basically saying how Commander Tartar and Glenn Fiddler are working together, I did bring up the fact that the text here underneath this logo looks very similar to the text underneath the Kamabo logo. And the Kamabo logo uses the Deep Sea Stencil script. Now, throughout the entire Splatoon series, there are different scripts, which are basically different writing styles and alphabets for the different languages throughout the series. And almost all of the Inkling and Octoling language we've seen throughout the games have been deciphered and translate to a real language in the games that could be translated to English. Now, the Deep Sea Stencil script is the one that the Kamabo logo uses, as well as this logo right here. But if you also look down in the lower right corner, we see some more text right there saying something that also uses the Deep Sea stencil script. However, the frustrating part is that the Deep Sea stencil script is one of, if not the only script that has yet to be fully translated. Not much about the script has been translated, only a couple letters, so whenever the script is used, it is very hard to make out what the text is actually saying. So I'm not really too sure what either of these mean, and if you look next to the logo there's also some text down there that looks to be using the Deep Sea stencil script with the arrows. So it's very hard to tell what these are actually saying, but this is kind of corroborating my theory that Commander Tartar or Kamabo could be playing some role in here, since we only see the Deep Sea stencil script in, you know, Deep Sea Metro, where Octo expansion takes place, where Kamabo mainly did all of its dirty work. So to see the Deep Sea stencil script being used here and it being heavily associated with Kamabo, I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that Kamabo could be playing a part in Side Order. Now after that, we get another elevator scene where here on easy we see wide open floor, which this seems to be one of those switch block levels where we shoot the blocks and they expand. I'm not exactly sure what it is called, but the reward for that is 30 membucks and a color chip for a canned special drop. Now this green color chip is under the category lucky, and I will go over all the categories in a couple scenes. And this basically gives us the ability to pick up special cans as enemy drops, which will increase with the max lucky chain. So those two work hand in hand. The easy floor is wide open floor. Again, another destroy the portal objective. This one we get main firing speed. Now this seems like it's going to be one of the most broken chips in all of Side Order. It is absolutely stupid when it is stacked. It increases your main weapon's firing rate. That's it. So if you've seen some of the gameplay that has been floating around and you've seen this stacked on top of itself, the splatter shot is firing faster than a splash. Okay, so this singular chip right here is very dangerous. And then after that we have the hard floor explosion festival, which is another defeat or destroy all the portals. And it seems like they're not all going to be the same. Every destroy the portal objective is going to have its different theme to it, as we can see here for the easy wide open floor hard explosion festival. So all of these objectives are going to be different from themselves. So all the splat zones ones are going to have different map layouts with different enemy types, spawning in different locations with different attacks. So it's not all going to be the same. Truly showing that this game is meant to be played over and over again, and it's going to be vastly different every single time, and no two runs are ever going to be the same. So truly a roguelite in nature. Now for the reward chip for the hard floor is explosion knockback. Now for this one, I'm pretty sure it's referring to, like, say explosh or bombs. When bombs explode, it causes some knockback or stronger knockback than they already do give. They never scroll down to this one, so we can't exactly see the description for it. Now within the next couple scenes, we do get a little bit more information on the zone's objectives. So here it is usually just a single zone, and the indicator at the top is shared between us. So instead of it just being two numbers like it is in actual Splat Zones maps, it is a bar with our points showing on the bottom of the bar, while the gelatin's points being shown at the top. So they're at 40, we're at 65. They seem to have control more than we do, and on the right of that it shows the actual filling of the zone like it does in real time. So this is kind of just a lot easier to keep track of who has lead, who has more points, how close you are, and whatever, since this bar will be very helpful for that. This very next scene tells us a lot of information actually. So this objective is to catch the enemies that are trying to run from you, the escape artist ones, and those are these black fish right here. Now, one thing I did notice, that these black fish actually are able to use subs of their own. When the camera pans, we can see these two black fish, they shit out splat bombs here, so maybe gelatins can use subs and specials of their own once you get high enough in the Spire of Order. But more importantly, we see the dualies being played here on the Pearl palette, and we get 6 dodge rolls. Now there is a color chip to stack dodge rolls on top of each other, so you can roll as many times as the game will allow you to. So that's going to be very helpful. So pairing this with the dodge roll attack, you can just dodge through hordes of enemies for massive damage. After that, we get to see our full roster of color chips, with being 6 different categories of chips. Red being power, purple being support, orange being range, blue for mobility, light green for lucky, and then teal for drone. So these are Pearl drone chips that help buff up the Pearl drone, and all of the other ones are self-explanatory except for lucky. Lucky are ones that typically give you different types of buffs that you normally wouldn't get, like the lucky the max lucky chain is one of them. The canned special drop is another one. I'm sure there will be other ones for like armor drops or ink refill drops. So these ones are kind of just based off of the lucky chain, as you can see by the name being lucky there. Now, maybe I'm looking into this a little bit too much, but within each category, there are different types of chips, different subcategories of chips. Look at the support ones here for a second. We see these first 4 are all connected. The next 3 are connected, and then the last 6 there are connected. And if you look closely, these 3 different subcategories are all colored differently. Now they're all under the main color, they're just different hues. Like this first 4 set is different than the next 3 set, is more of like a pink than a purple, and then the last 6 are more of like a violet. So maybe within each main category, like power, support, range, there are subcategories which you can link those together for stronger effects, which I am kind of leaning towards given one of the chips later on that I will explain when we see that. Now within these next 4 scenes, we get to see different builds of the Pearl palette. So far, we can see the current layout of this palette here and the common tones. So I'm not really too sure what this means. This could mean that these tones are commonly the ones that are received when using a certain type of palette, so it has a higher chance of you getting these color chips compared to other ones. I'm not too sure about that. But we do get to see the build here and all of the different chips we have currently equipped. We get to see it visually there on the right, and on the left we get to see exactly which chips we have under which subcategory and how much they have been stacked. So right now here we can see ink damage is self-explanatory, just overall damage dealt by ink, whether that be main weapon, sub weapon, or special. Splash damage, this increases the damage of splash damage from explosions like bombs or explosh. Sound wave damage, this increases the damage of killer whale, wave breaker, and killer whale from the Pearl drone. Horizontal slash speed, self-explanatory. This is most likely for Splatana Stamper that we see later on in the trailer. It starts wiping very fast, so this kind of leads me to believe that there will be weapon specific chips that you can get to buff specific weapons, kind of to incentivize playing different weapons and trying out different builds with that. And then this one I'm still a bit confused on: main damage close and main damage distant. In my reaction video, I did say this could mean that the hitboxes for direct shot, like hitboxes for one shots and hitboxes for non-one shots, get bigger or deal more damage. Say for like a blaster, if you shoot certain distance away, the further away you get, the less damage the attack does. Just self-explanatory. So this could just be increasing the damage each of those do. Now next in the support, we see ink recovery rate, which is basically just ink recovery increases that. The next build we see for mobility, they have the extra dodge roll, which we did see earlier with the dualies. Mobility special charge, we haven't seen the direct description for this, so I assume it just means that the special charges while you are moving, and you can stack that on top of itself. So that'll be very, very interesting, and due to some gameplay that's been going around lately, it does seem that's exactly what that is. Mobile ink recovery, kind of just like mobile special charge, your ink take recovers faster when you're walking around instead of swimming. You can also stack that. Now for power, ink damage, main damage, distance, we've already seen that. And then range, we have main range, which just basically increases the range of your main weapon. Now, you can already tell this is going to be very, very nasty. Just imagine playing heavy. You can play heavy like Hydra, but have half of the charge time, and you can make that even shorter with some of the chips, or having a Luna Blaster shoot at the range of a Rapid Blaster with the speed of a Clash Blaster. It is absolutely insane. All of the different builds you can have for this game. That possibilities are endless. You can have so many different loadouts with different builds for different weapons and kits and everything. It is amazing how customizable this game will really be. It is absolutely wild. Next scene, we see another build, Splash Radius. This just increases the splash radius, makes splash damage bigger. It doesn't increase the damage, it just makes it a lot bigger. So later on we can see that a splat bomb can insta cap zone just on itself if you throw it in the middle. That is very scary, and it's maxed out here, so who knows how big that is. Ink attack size, I assume that this just makes our ink globs, like the ones we shoot out, a lot bigger, so they're easier to hit. I'm not too sure on that one. Main ink coverage, again, just increases the size of, or increases the amount of ink we shoot on the floor, how much the floor is taken up by ink. And then rush ink coverage, I'm still not too sure what this means. I've watched the trailers and other stuff, and I'm still really not too sure what ink or rush ink is, so I don't know what all that's about. And then for power, we have ink damage, splash damage, increasing the splash damage, and then the main damage distant again. And now the final build we see is just absolutely devious. This is just a Pearl build, a Pearl drone build. Just looking at the board itself, just look how many drone chips they have on here. They only have 5 non-drone chips. Okay, so they're just absolutely maxing the hell out of Pearl. This is something I would do. Just a bunch of support from Pearl drone would be insane. We got the drone splat bomb, burst bomb, killer whale, ink strike, ink mine, sprinkler. The drone can drop items for us and not just enemies. Drone gauge charge, so just makes the gauge build up for each of these subs even faster, which we will see later on. It's disgusting how much you can just boost Pearl's abilities and everything, just how helpful she can actually be. I have no doubt some people might just try to just instantly just max out Pearl everything, unlock everything on her, max out all the damage for all of this, and just run through a Pearl drone only run of side order. Shit, I might even try that myself once I play enough times. Just completely max out Pearl and just, can you beat side order with only Pearl drone so you don't attack or anything, just let Pearl do everything? Oh, that's gonna be so fun to try. Now after that, we just get some gameplay demonstrations of these 4 different builds and how they would actually play out in real time. And as for this Pearl one I'm most interested in, like I was saying earlier, she can have all these many different subs and specials, and they each have their own charge gauge, and once the gauge maxes out, she will throw out that sub or special. And they all have different recharge times, and I'm sure there will be color chips to increase or decrease the charge time of these different gauges. As you can see, the sprinkler she has a very, very fast recharge time. It is going absolutely insane. this one at the very bottom with the question mark, I assume that will just be a random special. So she can obviously use Ink Strike and Killer Whale and other specials like that. I assume the question mark is just whenever that gauge fills up, one of a random special of the one she's able to use will be used, and everything else will charge up over time and be used as soon as the gauge is full. Now, a little bit of information from some outside gameplay. She will not use the bombs and subs unless she is within a certain distance of an enemy. So if it's just open space and all of these gauges charge, she's not going to use them until a gelatin comes within a certain distance of her. So that's nice as to not waste time with subs and stuff. Now this frame here is kind of hard to explain without spoiling anything. There's a lot of information that we learned outside of the trailer that really helps us understand what all of this means. But as in just the trailer here itself, without explaining anything outside, we can see that we will be climbing up the tower obviously, and we will have a boss floor. Now there will be a boss floor every 10 floors. I'm not too sure what this key does, and I'm not going to explain what that vending machine does up there. I don't want to spoil that. And then down below that, we do get to see some type of power egg looking thing down here at the bottom. I actually don't know what that is all about, but here we can see up near the top of the screen, there seems to be some like purple ooze or purple fuzzy whatever up here. This could be to indicate that we are getting close to the final boss floor. I don't actually know what that means either. Now here we get to see the opening of a level and what it looks like when we actually load into one of the floors and play it. Now this one is floor 18. The difficulty is rigorous. Now this is the hard difficulty, as you can tell by the purple star here, and I think I know why it's called rigorous there. This is kind of a big spoiler that I don't want to give out, but I'm pretty sure I know the reason why it's called rigorous there and not hard. And then we can see the name of the floor is unreasonable, shelterless, up and down floor. I'm not really too sure what that means, but we get to see once we actually load into a floor, it's kind of this digital flush that we saw at the beginning of the trailer. We get some more gameplay clips, and we do get to see that the squid roll will also have some type of Kraken property. So there's another chip we can use, probably for mobility, that will give us a squid roll attack. But the part that's very interesting is right here. Once we actually die, we get to see what the screen looks like, and it says we got splatted by a pinging Mearcial. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but gelatin, probably boss gelatin, since it is on the 20th floor and every 10 floors we get a boss, and we saw it does look like the Octo Whirl. The bosses have their own unique names. Now on the Pearl palette we have 3,425 Membucks. Now how do I know that these are actually called Membucks? Well, if you look over here to the right, it says remaining Membucks 3,425. So this currency is called Membucks. Maybe these have something to do with mem cakes or just memories in general, but not going to speculate too much onto that. And it shows us all of our color chips that we lose. Now I'm not really too sure what these numbers mean next to the chips. I think that's how many we have within that certain subcategory. And what brought me to believe that these different subcategories could be linked together to increase the effects of them is right underneath the splash damage. We see one that says tone chain damage or tone change bonus. So I think that means there's different tones. So for each of the categories like power, mobility, and range, they're all like one color, red, blue, and orange. But within those, there are different tones, and that's what those subcategories linked together are, different tones of the colors. If you remember, I said they look like different shades. Like right here on the palette, these 3 purple ones right here, you see the purple and then 2 pinks. So all the same color but different tones. And if we have multiple of the same tone, we can basically chain them together to increase the effects of those. And that kind of seems like what that is about. And while it's scrolling through all of the color chips we missed, we do get to see some brand new color chips we haven't seen in any of the trailers before, such as here at the top we have quick charge. Now I'm assuming this is going to be for like splatlings and chargers, which if you stack it, it lets you charge faster, so you can basically at some point have an insta charge, so you can just spam charge shots with charges, kind of like a Grizzco charger, or fully charge a splatling just by tapping the button. Okay, so that's that. And then down more a couple, we see poison ink. Now this one is actually a very unique mechanic. So it's basically where when you shoot ink, obviously any gelatins or enemies that wander into your ink will start taking damage over time. So it's like passive damage for your ink. That is going to be very nice, especially for large groups of enemies, where you can kind of just spray down the map and then over time they'll take damage. It's going to be very helpful to take care of bigger mobs of enemies. It's going to be easier to destroy them, as a lot of the health will be gone by the time they get to you anyway. 3 more new color chips we see. While it's not showing here, there is one called main piercing, which I'm sure just gives piercing damage to your main weapon. But we also see something called Splatling Barrage and Knockback. Now, knockback is self-explanatory. It just provides knockback, I'm sure, to everything. So your main weapon, sub, and special all provide knockback. It doesn't really specify what, it just says knockback, so that could really mean anything. And then above the tone chain bonus, we have Splatling Barrage. I'm pretty sure I know what that refers to. I've seen it in some gameplay, but I'm not going to explain what that is. If you don't want to know and you want to find out on your own. I mean, it's very easy to find the side order gameplay. It's all over YouTube. Everyone's reacting to it. So if you wanted to see what it is, it would not be hard to find it. And I'm pretty sure if you went and watched it, you would kind of see what I'm talking about by Splatling Barrage. You kind of be able to know what it is when you see it. And after we lose all of those chips, the final points we have at the end add up to a currency called pearls. And we can use these pearls to kind of basically buy permanent buffs. So the game is kind of incentivizing you to die over and over and over again, so you can build up this currency to get permanent buffs and abilities that will help you ascend the Spire of Order a lot easier. Now here, so far we can see max lives. We can increase our max lives, which I did mention earlier. We start with 3, but we can increase it to 4, 5, 6, and eventually 7 seems to be the max. For 90 pearls each, it may be incremental, like exponential, so it's 90 and then maybe 180 next and whatever, or it might just all be 90 there. Damage reduction, that one is probably one I'm excited for a lot. Damage reduction would be very nice. You can just stack damage reduction and it's going to be insane. I do wonder though, once you unlock all of these permanent abilities, if there's any way to toggle them, so maybe you can turn them on and off. Even though yes, they are permanent, maybe they could make a way to toggle them off, so in case you get everything to max and you're basically just unkillable and it's not really that fun anymore because you're just in god mode, perhaps you will be able to toggle them. I really hope that is the case, but given that they're permanent upgrades, I'm not really too sure about that. We also get max armor, so basically just more health. Broken armor jump. I did speculate that when you get your armor broken, when you get your armor broken, you're all slow, you can't really move. This will increase the jump, or at least give you the ability to jump back to the beginning of the floor, or increase the jump speed of this once you're in that broken armor state. Now for the Pearl Drone, she also gets buffs. Drone action slots, basically giving her more slots for more subs and specials that we did see earlier. And then drone gauge turf charge, so the more turf she covers, the faster her gauges recharge, which is why we saw the sprinkler one recharging so incredibly quickly. She probably has a lot of this drone gauge turf charge stacked along with the color chips that help just increase that even more. Now, one of the big things about this screen here that got a lot of people freaking out is this right here. How when we accept one of these buffs, we can choose the options between nah and get hacking. Now, if you look behind it, look back there. That symbol is typical. That is Marina's symbol. And once we actually start hacking, it shows a loading bar with Marina's symbol right there. And although I said I'm not going to bring in too much outside information, this is the one case where I really kind of need to here. In that gameplay that's been floating around, Deadfish mentions that we will be waiting in the elevator or something along the lines of that. Now, a lot of people have been freaking out about who this we actually is, because so far we've only ever seen Deadfish herself in the elevator alongside Agent 8 and Pearl, but when they go into a floor, it's just her in there. So at least this has got me thinking maybe Marina is also in the elevator with her. Like once we get to a certain floor, we can get Marina, or maybe Marina just shows up there when we aren't in the elevator for some reason, and she starts hacking the system of the side order world to give us these permanent buffs. I mean, it would make sense since Marina is a very good hacker. And if she built this place and it got taken over by someone else, if anyone would know how to hack into it, it'd be her, since she did build it. And we see Marina's symbol right here. So, and something else, dude was able to play side order early, and he did confirm that Marina is there in the game, but he can't tell us why she's there or if she's helping or not. But Marina herself is physically in side order, so that dispels the theory, I guess, that she won't be there or she is a villain, but she is there to basically help us given all of this stuff. So everyone can be calm and rest assured that Marina, nothing has happened to her. She will be okay. Okay, and as for this section here, this part here where Marina is hacking, I went through and tried to decipher the text that's here, since the text here in the background is obviously code, and this is done in the square stencil script. Now, I tried to decode some things and a lot of it doesn't really make any sense, but I was able to crack some of it. So down here with these three sections right here, the very bottom one says color RGB equals JP, and then that M letter right there either stands for H or Z. Either one doesn't really make any sense, but the color RGB would make sense since color RGB, red, green, blue, equals JP, which I think stands for Japan, but the one above that says color RGB NC. I'm not sure what that means, so I'm kind of stuck on that. I moved up to the very top up here, and this actually kind of makes a bit of sense. So outside of the parentheses, the first word says aside, after that is canvas, but the inside doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The first word is smoothing, the second word is anti-aliased. I'm not really too sure what that means. ANTIALIASED. I thought maybe it was initialized, but that doesn't make sense either. So unless anti-aliased is a word, that makes absolutely no sense to me. So, and I don't feel like spending time trying to decipher everything else on here. That'll take way too much time, and that's not even what this video is about. But I just kind of wanted to see if there was some congruency with that. And for the most part, it does seem to be actual words there that can be translated from the square stencil script. But a lot of it seems to just be jumbled mess to just make it look nice, I guess. After that, we just get a couple more gameplay segments. There's nothing really too insane to talk about here, except for the dark floor, that floor where everything's all dark. That is important, but I don't want to spoil on what that is, because I think it'll be a lot cooler if people just figured that out on their own when they play the game for the first time. Now after that, we get some story stuff where you first see a building getting blown out. There's a hole getting blown out in the building. Now I have no idea what this possibly could be, but if you look, there's some more script on the tower. I really do enjoy looking for script like this and deciphering it with all these different scripts. So this one, like most of the other ones, doesn't really say anything. There's a couple letters I can make out here, like Y, T, or like W, T, and B. But other than that, it doesn't really make a word. Now, this next scene here is very interesting as we get a close-up of Agent 8 and Pearl. Now, I'm trying very hard to make out what this reflection is on Pearl, and I determined it is a reflection and not the actual inside of the Pearl bot as the reflection, as it doesn't really move as Pearl is bobbing around, which, you know, a reflection would not move around along with the drone. I can't really tell what it is. You can see this like white box right here underneath her eye, but that looks like it could be one of those boxes on the conveyor belt we see earlier in the Spire of Order, but I can't really tell what is going on here. Part of it looks like it's the inside of the drone, but part of it also looks like a reflection, and I really can't tell which one it actually is, and it's kind of frustrating me. Then we get to a scene here where we see the Tower of Order, I'm assuming, is starting to glitch out and everything with this red effect. This is almost kind of confirming that, yes, once again, this is a digital world. And if you see in the scenes before this, in the gameplay scenes, you see parts of the areas are starting to kind of get corrupted with the same type of red color. So I think the higher we go up the tower, the more corrupted it gets until we get to the virus and whatever is corrupting the tower and therefore the world itself. And after this, we get to see that weird face thing, that red face thing, which could be like the final boss of Side Order, but it taking on a different form to antagonize us throughout the whole game until we get to see its actual real form, which it turns out to be Commander Tartar. That last part was speculation and hoping copium, really. Not confirmed. It's not Tartar, we don't know that, but my theory is that Commander Tartar is coming back. Hopefully he does. And for the last noteworthy thing for this trailer is here where we get to see we're fighting this big whirling fortress thing that we did see in the very, I guess, the second trailer for Side Order. The first gameplay trailer we saw for Side Order, we saw this, everyone thought it was the final boss and everything. Huge theories about this. It does look like it is able to use its own specials as we see it throwing a tri-strike at us right here, or at least an ink strike. So this, I'm pretty sure, is just going to be one of the bosses every 10 floors and not the actual final boss. As if it were the final boss, they would not be showing it off this much throughout all the trailers and it would not look this generic. So I think it's safe to say that this is not the final boss of Side Order, just one of the many mini bosses. And that's all the major noteworthy stuff for the Side Order trailer. Now, we did get a bit of Side Order stuff in the Fresh Season trailer, and that is pretty much a lot of what we have already seen in this main Side Order trailer, but there are a couple things I do want to talk about. One of the scenes here, we get to see Deadfish playing her turntables. Now, this isn't surprising as we already have some lore on Deadfish that she was the main composer of the music for Octo Expansion, and she is a DJ, much like Marina, so naturally she would have these turntables, and in her official 2D art for Octo Expansion, we see her playing on her turntables. And later we get another scene of us in the elevator, this time with the different levels. Normal, we have exposed switchback floor, which is a splat zones objective, fortress floor, an 8-ball objective, and another splat zone objective for the hard one, frantic double-decker crisscross floor. Now, I'm assuming that one is going to have 2 zones since it's double-decker. I don't know what the crisscross means. Maybe the zone is in the shape of an X? That would be interesting, but I think there might be 2 zones here since it is the hard difficulty, it is a splat zones objective, and this is double-decker, so I assume there's 2. But as for the color chips, armor drop, like I had said earlier in the video, there was one for a special can drop, and now there will be a chip that will allow us to get armor drops. And I'm pretty sure there's also one for ink tank refills, and again we can stack this with max lucky chain. Sound wave damage, which I did mention earlier, increases damage dealt by sound waves from the Killer Whale 5.1 Wave Breaker or Pearl Drone, and that's most likely just Killer Whale from Pearl. And then the dodge roll attack, like I had said, we get like a Kraken effect on our dodge rolls for the dualies, and we see it right here after this scene. Then a little bit later into the trailer, we do get this shot right here of Agent 3 sleeping on the train. We had already seen this in the other side order trailer from a couple weeks ago. Now this kind of supports the theory that side order is all just a dream. I'm not too sure on that, and I hope that's not the case, because I'm really not a fan of the whole "it's just a dream" theory. It's such an easy cop-out for literally anything that happens. Any inconsistencies or anything could always just be explained that it was just a dream. It's just a very boring trope in general. I really hope that's not the case here. Now here, this is one of the frames that I got hooked up on the most. Now, this is a close-up of one of the walls inside the tower, and we see pink pianos right here, but next to that, more importantly, we see a picture right here of what seems to be Agent 8 and an Octarian. Notice how the Octarian isn't fuzzy or sanitized, so this is way before, this is probably before Kamabo, and some backstory right there. There's some text, I'm not sure what it says, but it's probably them talking to each other, and it looks like Agent 8 may have a phone in her hand. But this could be just the life of Agent 8 before she got sent into the deep sea metro, and it could make sense since Marina was part of the Octarian army. I think Agent 8 also was, I'm not too sure. I think she might have just been some random Octarian, but it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that Agent 8 and Marina knew each other at some point, or at least have interacted before or seen each other, or Agent 8 knew of Marina since she was a very high-ranking official. So it makes sense why Agent 8 would be here in Marina's memories. Also, they interacted during Octo expansion. Now here's our first instance of actually seeing Pearl outside of the bot in her Inkling form. Now this is obviously some big story moment. I'm curious as to when it takes place. I assume it's near the end, but I'm curious what is happening here and why Pearl isn't inside of her drone. But we do see that she does have the outfit she was wearing during the live concert we had recently, and Marina will probably be wearing that orange outfit that she was wearing. So these seem to be confirmed that these are their side order outfits. A bit disappointing for me, at least, because I like the gold dress that Pearl is wearing, but not the jacket. I do not like that big puffy ass jacket. For the rest of the trailer, we see some more gameplay until we get to this part here. We see Agent 8 spawning in with all of her upgrades and everything. This seems to be the final floor of the Spire of Order. I mean, it would make sense they put it at the very end of the trailer. All the music cut out, it's just ambient noise. Agent 8 and Pearl standing there looking, and they're kind of like looking upwards, so it's probably a huge enemy, and the whole background, everything is all blacked out. So this is most likely the very top of the Spire of Order, the final boss fight where we confront the main villain, hopefully Commander Tartar. And that is all. Going over the entire side order trailer and the little bit we saw in the Fresh Season trailer, that is everything you need to know about these two trailers with a little bit of outside information. There is still a lot of information we learned about side order that I did not include in this video, because for those who still want to go in relatively blind, and if you want to find that information, literally just go to the Japanese website. If you're having a hard time finding that, I will link that in the description here, or you can just go to the official Splatoon Twitter account and you can see the information there. But as for now, that's all the information for these trailers, an in-depth analysis. since I haven't seen anyone do that yet, as people are probably still working on theirs. But that's it. We're not getting any more trailers before Side Order comes out. It's just a couple days away. I am so excited. Best believe as soon as it drops, I will be recording a playthrough for it. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I might analyze the fresh season trailer. I'm really not sure. There's also that gameplay that I was mentioning in this video and other videos that I would be reacting to. I might react to that. I still haven't watched it yet. I might watch it on my own. I don't really know. Depends on how I'm feeling. But yeah, that's it for this one. So see you next mission and play some goddamn Splatty.